There it is, the statue of Ernie Banks outside Wrigley Field. Jason Hayward in the cage. They are excited. They've been waiting a while to play meaningful games again. The Chicago Cubs feels like they clinched the division by the All-Star break. And then they had to wait a few days once the regular season ended to get to Game 1, whereas the San Francisco Giants had to beat the New York Mets to get to this point. Here's a look at your pitching matchup. Johnny Cueto and Jon Lester. And look at the postseason stats for Jon Lester, a 2.85 ERA. He has been a terrific, terrific pitcher when the games mean the most. Here's a look at the lineup now for Bruce Bochy and the San Francisco Giants. Buster Posey's got to start to turn things around. Am I right?
Yeah.
Third.
I think he's the guy that really makes this offense go for the Giants. He had a really bad second half, and I think that was a big reason why the Giants really slumped in that second half.
And then, of course, the hero from the wild card game, Connor Gillespie, is hitting 8th and playing 3rd for the Chicago Cubs. There it is, a lot of the usual suspects again. They got Javier Baez over at second base tonight, and then Ross and Lester to finish things out. What stands out from this line?
Well, again, Addison Russell now in the 5th hole from where he started the season. He's had quite a year. But, you know, for me, again, it's Fowler and Zobrist to me are really important tonight in their ability to put the ball in play consistently against Cueto.
And the thing for Jason Hayward that I'm thinking about, right, is like he signed all this money. We're crushing him all season long. If he has a good month, a good few weeks, whatever you want to call it, he could really turn things around.
He could. I think the Cubs are just hoping he has a good one game.
Well, we'll start there. We'll start there. And speaking of that one game, you can see the beginning of that one right here on MLB Network. So we'll send you out to Wrigley Field in just a few moments. But first, a quick break, and then we're back for our MLB Network studios in a moment.
Hey, it's been crazy with school being back, so we are constantly going over our data limit.
Oh, well, now all our new plans come with no data overages.
Wow, no more overages?
So that means...
Go on, say it.
We'll finally be in control.
And we're back.
Introducing new AT&T plans with no data overage charges.
NLDS Game 2, Saturday 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on MLB Network.
When it comes to learning more about family and ancestors, well, we might look at old portraits and photographs, or sift through historical documents, or even search through public records. But now, there's another way. 23andMe is reinventing the way you look at your ancestors using the science of genetics, your DNA. With just a small saliva sample, you'll learn about your ancestry through your 23 pairs of chromosomes and make you who you are. With 23andMe.com, you can find out your percentages of DNA from 31 populations around the world. You can even see how much DNA you have in common with friends or family. And if you want, you can find DNA relatives, those people who share some of your DNA, and choose to message them. With 23andMe, you can experience your ancestry in a whole new way.
Order your DNA kit today to receive 23andMe's Ancestry Service. Available now for $99 at 23andme.com.
Moments away from Game 1 in Chicago. We'll see the beginning of this game right here on MLB Network. You'll get the start of this game, and then once things finish up in Washington, D.C., you can flip over to FS1. But again, it begins on MLB Network in just a few moments. There's Johnny Cueto, who wanted this matchup, the Giants and the Cubs. We know that because in early September, he said this to Andrew Baggerly. I asked Cueto if he wanted a piece of the Cubs again in the postseason. I hope to God we do play them. We'll find out who's got the coconuts. And we're not talking about produce, folks. Just throwing it out there. So here you go. You got what you asked for. And sometimes rooting for and hoping for an opponent doesn't always work in your favor.
Well, especially when you give them bulletin board material, and I think that is something that he has just given the Cubs. But when you're Johnny Cueto and you're pitching as well as he is right now, I think he's probably feeling pretty confident in the way things are going.
I think it's going to be a great matchup tonight. You know, Johnny Lester's been almost unbeatable at home. He's really been unbeatable at night. I think he's 13-0 with an ERA right around 2. But Johnny's pitched great in the whole month of September, and he's coming off a good start. And you know, it'll be interesting. I still like the Cubs. I think this is a big game pitcher. I think the Cubs have handled pressure the entire year of expectations, and I expect them to step up and play well. I love everything about this team. I love its athleticism, its versatility. I love the way they play defense, and as well as the Giants are playing right now. I still think the Cubs are the best team in baseball.
We'll see the beginning of this game on MLB Network in just a couple of moments, and then we'll send you out there. Matt Vasgersian and John Smoltz with the call. How about the Chicago Cubs and the fact that they had such a good season, 103 wins. They clinched earlier than anybody this year. They still won some games down the stretch, but then after the regular season ends, they get, what, 4 or 5 days off? Whereas the Giants had to play all the way to the end, get a wild card game. They keep the momentum. They keep the rhythm. Is that at all a concern for you?
I think it is a concern. You know, we talked about the Texas Rangers and their 4 days off. You can lose your momentum. You can lose your timing as a hitter. You're just not in that everyday intensified situation like the Giants is. And the thing that I look at this situation is you got the Cubs, who, as you mentioned, Dan, have great expectations. People expect them to win the World Series. The San Francisco Giants, they're playing with house money right now. They're just kind of taking one game at a time. They've got nothing to lose at this point in time, and I think there's nothing more dangerous than a team or a man with nothing to lose, and I think those are the guys you've got to be careful because they've got a great starting rotation who matches up well against the Chicago Cubs lineup.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think from an offensive timing and rhythm standpoints, I think the Cubs could have an issue tonight. But again, when you have Johnny Lester on the mound with his type of experience, I think he can shut down the Giants lineup. But I will say right now the Giants are playing better. They look like the Giants right now of the first half. They've won 5 in a row. And they've been in this must-win mentality. I think their defined focus and awareness on how to play championship baseball is real. I just think the Cubs have too deep and talented of a team.
And is that the thing, too, that allows them the ability to really turn the page? I mean, we talk about it all the time. A baseball team can't just flip a switch and go from bad to good overnight. But with the Giants, they fight till the end. They get into the postseason. And they've been through this before with Bochy, with Sabian, with Buster Posey, Madison Bumgarner.
Well, sometimes the hardest part is getting to postseason for a veteran team, especially a veteran team that has a high level of expectations for themselves. And no doubt they struggled. They did not look like a very good team for the bulk of the second half. So sometimes when you get to postseason, because when they were in New York the other night, that was an incredible game. Either team could have won that game, but you could see that the Giants were not going to beat themselves. I don't expect that'll happen in this series. I think the Cubs are going to have to beat the Giants to be able to win this series. The Giants aren't going to give it away.
And Paulie, let me take you inside the locker room. The San Francisco Giants. As Dan said, we're here, guys. We've done this before. We know exactly what to expect. This is our time right now, as opposed to, okay, we're here, we've got to win. They've done it before. There's enough guys in that locker room that have the confidence that they know how to play championship baseball.
I'll tell you what, though, if the Giants do somehow come out and sneak out a win tonight, the pressure on the Cubs now goes up a lot because they know they lose game 2, 87.5% of those teams, they don't win a 5-game series. So this is really an important game for the Cubs to hold the home field first serve, and then the Giants then are just hoping for a split and taking it back to San Francisco.
Well, Game 2 will be on MLB Network in its entirety. Game 1 will have the beginning of that game. Then once things wrap up in Washington, we can clean all that stuff up. But you'll get the beginning of that game right here on MLB Network in moments. The Chicago Cubs, it's been a while, since 1908.
Just 107 years.
Big deal. What's a century between friends? But do you believe, and we've seen it with other clubs, the Cavaliers earlier this year, the Boston Red Sox, that you've got to really have your back against the wall to erase a drought like this?
Yeah, and at some point in time in this postseason, the Cubs more than likely are going to have their back against the wall, and they then will have to step up and perform.
What do you think, Dave?
No question about it. I think at that point in time, this is a team, and Dan mentioned it, they're so good. They're so balanced. There's no weak spot in this ball club, whether it's defense, starting rotation, the bullpen, offense, left-handed hitters, right-handed hitters. These guys can do it all. Great defense as well.
These clubs are facing off in the postseason for just the second time ever. The Giants beat the Cubs in 5 games during the 1989 NLCS. Will Clark was the series MVP. He's long gone right now. These two teams, the Giants looking for their 3rd World Series title since 2010. Got a long way to go, of course. Just starting the division series right now. And the Cubs, their first title since 1908. For them, the journey begins right now. And for you, Game 1 begins right now. It begins right here on MLB Network. Let's send it to Wrigley Field. Matt Vasgersian and John Smoltz will have the call in just moments, as this series will have an amazing feel to it. Two classic franchises, two great clubs, a championship pedigree on one side and one that hopes to build one. Matty V and John Smoltz.
All right, Paul, thanks. An excited Wrigley Field crowd, eager to put the frustrations, curses, and near misses of over 100 years behind them. It's Game 1 of the National League Division Series, the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. And welcome inside the broadcast booth, Matt Vasgersian. The Chicago Cubs have been the class of Major League Baseball all season long. An exciting young core of players, a terrific starting staff, led them to clinching the NL Central as early as mid-September. 103 wins, the top total in baseball, and the Cubs begin their postseason journey tonight toward what would be their first World Series title in over 100 years. The Giants got into the All-Star break with the best record in the game, but needed a late September push to get here. They won their final 4 games of the regular season, beat the Mets in the wild card game in New York on Wednesday, and stand 11 victories away from an improbable 4th World Series win in the last 6 years. I welcome Hall of Famer John Smoltz to the broadcast. John, we are set, all the elements in place for what should be a terrific best-of-5 series.
Well, I personally can't wait. I've been looking forward to this series. You've got the Cubs, 103 wins. They have the most weapons that give them the opportunity to win a game, right? And then you got the Giants. They have the weapon of knowing how to beat somebody at this time of the year. The subplot might be the Giants' contact offense against the Cubs' strikeout pitchers. It's going to be a fantastic, heavily weighted starting rotation on both sides.
Let's talk about one of the Giants' weapons. And the last time we saw Johnny Cueto in the postseason, he was wrapping up a complete game in Game 2 of last year's World Series in another uniform. He gets the ball for Bruce Bochy tonight.
Well, and if you haven't seen him much, he likes to have fun on the mound. And what I mean by that, he can throw about 4 different deliveries at you. Johnny Cueto messes with the timing of the opposing hitters with a traditional windup, and then he gives you a little bit of a Louis Tiant, all right, and then he might quick pitch you, and then he's got one last one, that's the rocking chair. Johnny Cueto reads the hitter's swings and tries to do whatever he can to disrupt the timing. He is very suited for the Giants. You see the last 5 starts, 4-0, and for Johnny Cueto, he wants to get his team off to a good start.
Cueto's had some postseason success, that's to be sure, but not in comparison to the Cubs starter. In fact, very few can boast the kind of postseason success that John Lester has had.
Well, John Lester is also looking at possibly winning a Cy Young, but what he's been is unbeatable in the second half. That only loss came to the Cincinnati Reds in what was a tune-up for this start. His determination, his concentration, experience, all going to bode well for the Cubs. The only thing, he doesn't hold runners very well. So if he can get the speed off the bases, and maybe the Cubs get off to a good start. We already seen the Texas Rangers, best record in the American League. They're down 0-2.
Yeah, there is some pressure on the Cubs. You alluded to that a moment ago as we say hello to the third member of our broadcast crew, Ken Rosenthal, with a little bit more on how the players in Chicago are handling that pressure. Kenny.
Well, Matt, from day 1 of spring training, Joe Madden has talked about embracing the target. He wanted his players to be empowered by the expectations, not overwhelmed by them. And the players certainly do not act as if they are carrying the weight of 1908. Jake Arrieta told me he is amused by questions about whether the team is anxious or nervous. He'll tell people, hey, I played golf this morning, I'm fine. If the Cubs lose, it will be due to the randomness of the postseason, the quality of the opponent. They're not going to crumble.
All right, Kenny, nobody in Chicago expects this thing to crumble in either direction. The Giants very comfortable with what they are at the start of play tonight, as the ceremonial first pitch was thrown out moments ago by Hall of Famer and Chicago Cub legend Billy Williams. Among the many, all set to put all the curses and disappointments of the last 107 years to bed. Let's start you by posting the Giants starting lineup today. Here's how they align against John Lester. Gorky Hernandez, a late call-up who made an impact down the stretch, a lead off in center field. Brandon Belt moved into the 2 spot at the end of the season, had a lot of success there. He bats second tonight. Buster Posey, Hunter Pence, and Angel Pagan, the former Cub, 3 through 5. Brandon Crawford, Kelby Tomlinson, Connor Gillespie, the wild card hero, and Johnny Cueto rounded out for San Francisco.
Well, for John Lester, what you do when you look at this lineup card, you say, okay, I got to highlight a couple people. Those 2 people right there highlighted, don't let them get on base because they are the potential stolen base threats for the San Francisco Giants. Of course, you don't want Posey or Pence to beat you, but the speed in this lineup, which isn't a lot, keep them off the bases. John Lester does that. He'll be in a good position to pitch a strong game for his Cubs.
Among the benchmarks of the 2016 Cubs, they are an outstanding defensive team, and it's the John Lester defense today. That's what Joe Madden calls it when he has Javi Baez in the infield. Chris Bryant plays third. Addison Russell at shortstop. Anthony Rizzo is per usual at first. We put their ages on the screen because when this group started the postseason last year, they were one of the youngest postseason infields in Major League history. John, let's take a look at the keys to the game.
Well, it's the pressure on the bases for the Giants. They tried to do it to Syndergaard, and any chance you can, steal some bases. And for the Cubs, it's game 163. Don't change anything. You're the best team in the baseball season for a reason, and that's Joe Madden's plan. It's just game 163, guys.
Keys to the game brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company. We are all set for baseball. Game 1 of this division series, and John Lester ready to go to work.
Well, you see the numbers on the year. It's been a fantastic season, much more consistent with his mechanics. And the key for tonight in John Lester is where does he get that inch off the plate? He loves to throw to the glove side, which is inside to a right-hander, but he needs to get the outside corner to be effective. That is the one thing he has dominated hitters this year, is fastballs away and in, complementing it with a changeup, cutter, and occasional curveball.
Gorky Hernandez digging in for San Francisco, and this National League Division Series Game 1 is underway. Hernandez, Belt, and Posey for the Giants. There were some roster choices, of course, for both Bruce Bochy and Joe Madden. And if you had suggested to the Giants that they'd be opening this division series with a guy that spent most of his season in AAA, you might have been met with some skepticism. But Bruce Bochy wants a guy that's capable of getting on base and maybe starting a running game against John Lester to set the tone tonight. Trying to bunt his way aboard. Rizzo with a shovel to first base, and they can't get it done. Hernandez is aboard to start the ball game, but looks like he's dinged up as he had a collision with Javi Baez at the bag.
Yeah, that was a scary looking play. Baez, one of the most athletic players on the team, comes all the way from second base. This is what you got to do against John Lester. You've got to make him field the ball, possibly throw. At this point, it's an impossible play. You see Baez trying to slide in, catches the ankle of Gorky Hernandez. Almost an ugly play for both players. Luckily, hopefully, nobody really hurt. But I'm surprised over the course of the season why more teams didn't try to do that. You can tell in the postseason, everybody's more amped up. The crowd's more into it. Everything is a rally. When a guy gets on first base, it's a rally, and they have the right guy on the base. Do the Giants if they're going to try to create speed and take bases.
Hernandez did not have a stolen base at the major league level this year, but he did steal 20 at AAA this season. And here now is Brandon Belt with the leadoff hitter aboard. Belt, as we mentioned, moved into the 2 spot at the very end of the season, and it paid some dividends. The Giants are 6-1 with Belt batting second. And Belt himself seemed to take off in that spot as well. A .375 batting average for him in the final week of the season as the number 2 hitter. There goes Hernandez. Throw to second by Ross is in plenty of time to get him.
David Ross in his final year. This is a package deal. Lester and Ross didn't get the greatest jump, but what a great throw and a great start for the Cubs. You've got to be, as a base runner, you've got to be determined to take the biggest lead and go immediately. And that's the hardest thing for players to do, is think he's not going to throw to first.
Belt with a swing and a miss to put him behind 1-2.
So here's the throw by Ross. He gets rid of it, and you can tell how fired up he's going to be. It's a big moment. Say, take that, boys. Try stealing on my guy.
A ball and 2 strikes to Belt with 1 out and the base is empty. For coverage of this game in Spanish, please tune into Fox Deportes.
But if you're the Giants, you have to do that. That is the right play. Talking to Bruce Bochy is trying to convince his players to get a big enough lead and go. Don't worry about being picked off. He rarely throws the ball over to first base.
And Belt commits. 2 gone to start the top of the first.
Well, this is the fastball away. He'll cut his fastball. You see that cutting action right there. He'll throw a cutter away and cutters in to right-handers. And he'll use that occasional breaking ball if he feels like he needs to get them off of the hard stuff. But John Lester, power pitcher, as are most of the Cubs this year. 3rd most strikeouts for the Cub pitchers.
Here's Buster Posey now. A 4-time All-Star. Ended the season in good shape, hitting safely in 7 of his final 10 ball games, though the power mysteriously vanished after the All-Star break. Something you can say for most of the San Francisco lineup. And Posey out in front, a swing and a miss, 1-1.
"46 postseason hits for Buster Posey. And plenty of career left in this young man.
21 career postseason runs batted in. His next will pass Barry Bonds for the most in franchise history. Boy, that caught stealing was such an early momentum changer in the stands. You know, Hernandez reaches on the infield single. And if he's able to beat that throw, this place isn't nearly as loud at this moment. Lester's 1-2 to Posey. You know, the thing that John Lester and David Ross feel strongly about regarding the stolen base success, and again, 72 opposition bags in 2 years against John Lester, an enormous total. They feel much like your ex-mate Greg Maddux did. If they can't get on, they can't steal, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Exactly.
Posey lifts a fly ball the other way. Jason Hayward in the corner to wrap up an eventless top of the first. Nothing comes of that leadoff infield single. So the Cubs have no score at Wrigley.
Modern life deserves a modern way to pay.
Hey, help. Dude.
You can use it online and on your phone.
Masterpassed it. XXXXL. That's sweet.
Coming in for the save.
Thank you.
Priceless.
Want a napkin?
Masterpass, the secure way to pay from your bank. Don't just buy it, Masterpass it.
Let's go. I think it's time I got my turn. Gonna roam wherever I roam. You wonder how
one smart choice leads to the next.
That's just how I roll. I'm gonna go my way.
The new 2017 Ford Fusion is here. It's the beauty of a well-made choice.
It's gonna be a big wide blue sky, sunshine, happy day.
Enjoy your phone.
You too. All right, be cool. You got the amazing new iPhone 7 on the house by switching to AT&T. What? And you got unlimited data because you have DirecTV? Okay, just a few more steps.
Door!
It's cool.
Get the iPhone 7 on us and unlimited data when you switch to AT&T and have DirecTV.
So,
With that box, you'll be the first to win PlayStation VR. Player One. Soon, it spreads like wildfire. Humanity becomes so plugged in, we never see them coming. That's why I was sent back to stop you.
Oh, hey, I won.
Right.
The future of gaming starts at Taco Bell. Grab any $5 box and you could be one of the first to win PlayStation VR.
Said I'm wild, said I'm wild, said them free. You cannot move, so go ahead, set them free.
To the bottom of the first and right to Joe Maddon's Cubs starting lineup. Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo off the top. Ben Zobrist, Addison Russell, and Jason Hayward 4 through 6. Javi Baez gets a start at second base. Ross and Lester round things out for the Cubs. And on the mound for the Giants, the two-time All-Star 30-year-old veteran Johnny Cueto, an 18-game winner during the regular season, capped off a fantastic year with a winner in his last start Thursday against the Rockies. We welcome those of you over to FS1 joining us after watching the Dodgers survive the Washington Nationals and take a 1-0 lead in that best-of-5 series with John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian just underway here in Chicago. Cueto's next pitch to Dexter Fowler swung on and missed, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, you can see how fast that Johnny Cueto works, and he'll vary that too. Sometimes a quick slide step, sometimes the rocking chair, sometimes the Louis Tiant. There you see it.
On the corner, and a generous corner it was.
Dexter Fowler, one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. This offense really goes when he goes, and you see this backdoor slider. Johnny Cueto's going to throw fastballs, changeups, and sliders and alter his delivery to mess with the timing of the hitters. That's the goal of a pitcher, whether it be by pitches, changing the eye level and eye set and timing of the hitters, or by your delivery. He does it all, trying to really mess with the hitter.
One away now for the still reigning Rookie of the Year, Chris Bryant, who followed up his tremendous inaugural season in the big leagues last year with an MVP caliber 2016. 39 home runs, 102 driven in, and getting the start at third base tonight. Making his season even more incredible, the fact that he's played so many positions and been moved around as often as he has in Joe Maddon's grand scheme. 2 balls and no strikes from Johnny Cueto to 2-1.
Well, if Bryant has any kryptonite, it's a right-handed changeup to a right-handed batter, and that's the one scenario where he has not been able to do much. 0-91, and Johnny Cueto, I would assume, would throw some changeups to Mr. Bryant if he's given the count in his favor.
You know, for Johnny Cueto, he's posted one of the game's best ERAs since 2013, 4th lowest in baseball over that time. And he's done so with decreasing usage of the fastball. Since that year, there are only 3 starters with qualified innings that have thrown the fastball more infrequently. It's a full count now to Bryant, 3-2.
There was the changeup right there. Bryant's done a great job 1 year to the next. We know how talented he is. We know the numbers that he's put up, but he's cut down his strikeouts significantly and changed his bat path through the zone to try to do that, and it's been successful. And he probably is going to get rewarded with an MVP trophy before it's all said and done. Good shot right there of the changeup, the wiggle.
Full count offering to Bryant on its way. Back to Cueto. He fumbles with it for a moment, but gets it to Belt in time for round number 2.
I'm telling you, been there, done that. Those balls look like they come back at him a little harder. This one's just jammed and it just catch you in an awkward spot as you follow through with your delivery. Cueto's a pretty good athlete, and obviously you got to be a pretty good athlete to be able to have those type of deliveries and balance to deliver and execute your pitches.
A reminder for those of you watching us on MLB Network, at the conclusion of this half inning, find us on FS1, as we'll be headed there as soon as this half inning comes to a close. Here's Anthony Rizzo now with 2 out and the base is empty. He takes a strike.
Now you see where Posey just set up. Anthony Rizzo as a hitter is going to bait the pitchers into thinking you can't do that 3 times. He gets on top of the plate. He takes away the inside part of the plate and crushes pitches away. That followed with a changeup. But what Anthony Rizzo does over time in 162 games knows that the pitching is not good enough to make 3 really good pitches and tie him up in there. So as the game goes on tonight, let's see how many times Cueto can get inside on Rizzo.
With 2 strikes, choking up as he has for much of the last couple of years, and it's still an 0-2 count to Anthony Rizzo, who has not really enjoyed his time head-to-head with Johnny Cueto. Just 3 for 25 lifetime against the San Francisco right-hander, and plenty of matchups after Cueto's 7.5 years in Cincinnati.
And part of that, I think, Matt, is because he can get the ball inside and then change speeds with that changeup. He tried to backdoor a slider right there. For Johnny Cueto, his command is his strength, and when he's good, that's what the Giants have seen most of the year and most of the second half.
Little pause at the top of the delivery, and it's still a 1-2 count to Anthony Rizzo. We visited with Buster Posey before the game today, and I know you, among many, were curious to ask him if Buster has any sense as to which of the many deliveries of Johnny Cueto is headed his way.
He said he really doesn't, but that Johnny Cueto is one of the best at recognizing the hitter, and when he recognizes the hitter in the swing, that's when he does this.
Still a 1-2 count to Anthony Rizzo.
You can see a little bit of balance point, turns his back to the hitter, and then he'll speed it up. It's fascinating to see how many different ways he can get a hitter out.
Quick pitch, and Rizzo is waiting for it. Lines it out to right, handled by Hunter Pence, however, to put an end to a 1-2-3 bottom of the first.